Good morning, everyone. My pleasure to convene this meeting of the CDA Selection Committee and call to order at 11:07 a.m. this Thursday, August 3rd. Jackie, could you please call the roll?
Yes. Committee person Keon. Here. Committee person Ingracia.
Present.
Committee person Alexander.
Present.
And committee chair Pfeffer.
Here. Thank you, Jackie. Our first agenda item today is approval of the minutes. Has everyone had an opportunity to review the minutes from our meeting on May 3rd? Was it May 3rd?
It was
May
16th.
May 16th, excuse me.
I move that we approve the minutes from the May 16th Community Development Administration Committee.
Oh, second.
Thank you. Jackie, could you please call the roll?
Committee member Keon. Aye. Committee member Ingracia.
Aye.
Committee member Alexander.
Aye.
Committee chair Pfeffer.
Aye. The minutes have been approved, and we can move on to our next agenda item, review and discussion of responses. And the first item there is the ARPA policies and procedures drafting services RFP that was issued on May 16th, and which we received 2 responses to, which have been shared with the committee. The responses were from Haggerty Consulting and Guidehouse. And I'll pass it over to Rashonda to provide an overview and recommendation.
So we had 2 responses. Guidehouse in total was $615,000, providing 3 to 4 FTEs over 6 months to help us with research, stakeholder engagements, and writing activities all surrounding the manual. And Haggerty was $225,000 for the same RFP. So it was kind of staggering to see the difference. I wanted to really dig in and see like what the difference was. Was one more reputable? Was another not as reputable? But what I found was they're both comparable organizations. To start with Guidehouse, it is the largest consulting firm that does this type of work in the world. A baby of PricewaterhouseCoopers from back in the day, and has some historic presence. Like they have a very strong presence in the country with over 16,000 employees. So they definitely have the capacity to do the work. So that's good. Haggerty, on the other hand, is smaller, based out of Illinois. They also have the capacity to do the work. And I specifically thought that they were someone we would be interested in more because of their work with Santa Rosa, California, where they work with like digital equity fund. They also work with childcare initiatives. It was just an extreme alignment that we are focused on because of the economic justice initiative in our city, that I thought Haggerty may have a more like familiar approach with the city of St. Louis. And they've also worked with larger players like the city of New York, Dallas County, Texas, and Arkansas. So for that reason, comparing them both kind of apples to apples, and with costs associated, the 225 versus the 615, I think that we should go with Haggerty Consulting for our ARPA policies and procedures drafting services.
Thank you, Rashonda. Any questions from the committee? And I want to also update the record to show that Kelly Anderson has joined. Thank you, Kelly.
I just had a quick question on the timeline that Haggerty submitted. Are you comfortable with that? It looked like they weren't going to be completed until December of 2024 with the work.
Yeah, I agree. The timeline where Guidehouse was, we can do this in 6 months. I think with Haggerty, we can impress upon our need for urgency and kind of work with them on that if chosen.
I'll also add in response to that question that something that impressed me from Haggerty's response is that they included a set of policies and procedures that they developed for the state of Maryland. And so I do think that we may be able to move a little bit more quickly. And I'm actually glad, though, that the $225,000 proposal is for a longer engagement. Whereas with Guidehouse, I am concerned that the 615,000 would get us 6 months worth of work that may not fully meet all our needs. Whereas with Haggerty, I'm more confident that we can commit this 225,000, have a roughly year-long engagement, hopefully knock out some initial policies and procedures pretty quickly, and then dig into some of the thornier questions.
Thanks for clarifying that.
Kelly, to catch you up, what we are discussing is the responses to our ARPA policies and procedures drafting services RFP. This is really designed to ensure that we are compliant with source requirements by developing policies and procedures that speak to exactly how we are going to comply with every piece of 2 CFR 200 and the Treasury Final Rule. It's just a best practice. And we received 2 responses, one from Haggerty and one from Guidehouse. And you heard, I think, Rashonda's overview of the responses and recommendation, but please let us know if you have any questions.
I don't have a question, but I do think that's a good flag from Christine and would like to see the timeline updated. So just agreeing with that comment.
That's certainly something that we can incorporate into our contractual negotiations. So hearing no further questions, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll motion that CDA can enter into contract negotiations with Haggerty Consulting for the ARPA and policies procedure development services.
Second.
Thank you. Jackie, can you please call the roll?
Committee Member Kian,
Aye.
Committee Member Ingracia,
Aye.
Committee Member Alexander,
Aye.
Committee Member Anderson,
Aye.
and Committee Chair Pfeffer.
By your motion, we'll move forward and enter into contractual negotiations with Haggerty. Thank you. Next item on our agenda is discussion of the home repair disbursement services. And here we did not receive any formal responses to the RFP. So what we did was we reached out to the 3 largest title companies currently active in St. Louis, inviting them to discuss this opportunity. Only one took us up on that, Accurate Disbursing, who CDA works closely with on other housing production work. And we talked through what a potential process could look like to essentially ensure, here what we're solving for is trying to make sure that contractors are paid in a timely manner. And using a title company really gives contractors confidence that they will be paid on time. It is the industry best practice. Accurate initially was concerned that they would have to do a significant amount of compliance work in addition to the dispersing work. And we conduct that compliance work. We already monitor the contractors. So there's not as much need. That's not what we are contracting with them for. They appreciated that clarification and therefore responded with an overview of a proposal, a process by which Accurate could pay our home repair contractors in a timely manner within ideally a few business days, but in no case less than 1 or 2 weeks. So with that, we are requesting approval from the committee to enter into a sole source agreement with Accurate Disbursing on the basis that it's under 2 CFR 200 320 C where it provides an exception where sole source procurement is permissible when open competition has failed to secure bids. So that this falls cleanly under that exception, and therefore we request the committee's approval of sole source procurement, but also happy to answer any questions about the proposed agreement.
Noel, for the record, did CDA reach out to any specific agencies to encourage, or not encourage, but share information about this opportunity for the RFP and verifying that we did our due diligence in getting the information out?
Yes, we reached out to every title company that we currently work with on housing production, which are the three major ones in the St. Louis market. If Bill were here, he could tell you exactly what those three are. But we did proactively reach out actually multiple times to them, and Accurate Disbursing was the only entity that expressed interest in this partnership.
And then just for information on timeline, when do you anticipate, if Accurate is selected, this would take to ramp up and begin?
I would anticipate beginning of next year.
And Grace, I just want to share that we did actively try a lot of title companies. I even reached out to Investors Title to ask them, and I shared our need with them. They referred Continental Title to us, and Continental still didn't respond. So we tried.
I know this is important too. I mean, it's been brought to my attention multiple times by the organizations with whom you're working for home repair that the delay in timelines getting paid is extremely problematic. If we're ready, I'd like to go ahead and make a motion to approve sole source selection for Accurate Disbursement for home repair services.
Oh, I'll second.
Thank you. Jackie, can you please call the roll?
Committee Member Keown,
Aye.
Committee Member Ingracia,
Aye.
Committee Member Alexander,
Aye.
Committee Member Anderson,
Aye.
Committee Chair Pfeffer.
Thank you all very much. We will proceed in entering into that sole source agreement. With that, we are now ready to move on to the next item of our agenda, review and discussion of RFPs. And we have 4 RFPs before the committee today, which we would like to issue, and we'll just take them in turn. The first is for Consolidated Plan Development Services. And for background, HUD requires us to produce a 5-year consolidated plan as a condition for receipt of HUD funds. And so we are currently in consolidated plan year 2020 through 2024, and we need to produce a consolidated plan that will run us from 2025 to 2029. This plan is due 45 days before the beginning of calendar year 2025, so it's due November 15th, 2024. And so we want to spend this coming year developing it. Last time that CDA produced a consolidated plan, it also entered into contractual services for that planning. It actually entered into 3 different contracts, one for drafting the consolidated plan, another for drafting the market value analysis, which is an important part of the consolidated plan, and another to assess fair housing and comply with that component of the consolidated plan. In this case, we've integrated the fair housing analysis, the impediments of fair housing analysis into the consolidated plan. So we're just anticipating 2 contracts, the consolidated plan drafting services and the market value analysis, which we'll speak to next. But again, what we're doing here is just placing us in the strongest position to remain compliant with HUD. The way that the process works is that we conduct consultation, we look at the data. It's a community-driven and data-informed process, and then ultimately produce a draft consolidated plan, collect additional public input on it, hold public hearings before finally submitting the consolidated plan to HUD. And then what happens is that each year we produce an annual action plan that explains how we are advancing and how we are fulfilling the objectives set forth in the consolidated plan. And so again, 45 days before the beginning of each calendar year, we submit that action plan, and then 90 days after the end, we submit a consolidated annual performance and evaluation report where we tell HUD, here's how we spent the money. So this is the HUD process that we need to go through, and that's why we're issuing this RFP here, which has been shared with the committee. Any questions about the RFPs, about the RFP at this time?
Noel, could you speak a little bit to how you, as the new director of CDA, might be interested in doing community engagement a little bit differently? I've never been particularly impressed with the level of community engagement that the consolidated plan has undertaken. I feel like the same usual suspects are at the table, and the people with whom we really need to be connecting, who can really benefit from most of the funding that comes through the federal government to CDA, are not at the table for those conversations.
It's a great point, and I think that while sometimes it's easy, I think, when we're so overwhelmed with responsibilities and obligations to see citizen participation as ticking a box, that we're really committed to substantive, ongoing dialogue with the community. It's not one-off. It's as I mentioned, ongoing dialogue where we are constantly calibrating our programs and priorities to reflect and more closely represent the community we serve. And so that's something that I think we'll definitely be looking for as we review responses to this proposal, is that background, experience, and capacity to support us in conducting community engagement and doing a deep dive into priorities for our community. I'll also note that I think we have a data set that we can build off of in terms of the ARPA priorities survey, because essentially the heart of the consolidated plan is a set of objectives and goals where we say, in the next 5 years, we want to produce this many housing units. In the next 5 years, we want to provide this many early childcare services. In the next 5 years, we want to provide this much food assistance. And so as we calibrate those goals, I think something that we can do is look to the ARPA needs survey, which received over 5,000 responses. I think we'll need to do a fresh round of community engagement, obviously, but the Jones administration is obviously really committed to doing deep, ongoing engagement, and we'd love to partner as well with the Board of Aldermen and with the aldermen so that we can really get to the community and to the neighborhood groups that are the heart of our communities.
Thank you. Yeah, that was going to be my next comment, is just keep me posted on how I can help facilitate those conversations at the board and in the president's office. And thanks for your recommitment to doing things differently.
On the RFP bottom of page 8, citizen participation, can we change that to resident participation?
No, we can't actually, because citizen participation is a specific HUD term. It's literally in 24 CFR 90 point something.
That's unfortunate. Then in terms of dates, Noel, can you walk us through what you all are thinking for timeline, how long this is going to be posted, and when you anticipate to make a selection?
We anticipate making, this will be posted by the end of this week, if not at the latest early next week. But as soon as you all provide our approval, we will fill in some of the blanks in this RFP in terms of dates and other items and release it. It'll be open for 30 days, and we will then bring the committee back, make a selection, and enter into contractual negotiations with all of the RFPs here. My goal would be to, provided that we receive competitive responses, enter into contracts, have executed contracts by the end of this year.
On the,
Oh,
I'm
go ahead,
sorry.
Rhonda.
I
Sorry.
was just going to share on the RFPs that we'll be talking about next. I just moved these to August. So where you see July, August, and September, just for an estimate for us internally.
Thank you. Do you think 30 days is enough time? The reason why I ask is for an RFP like this one, I don't remember who did the last consolidated plan, who was hired, but I'd be interested to see competitive teams get brought in, people with different perspectives, and that if there are teams that are brought in, then they may need more than 30 days.
Got it. I'd be open to doing 45 days if that is preferable to the committee.
Yeah, I'd be interested in seeing you all keep it open longer and do more outreach to encourage diverse representation and who applies for these.
That makes sense. And I'm trying to pull who did this last. I'm trying to track it down. Does 45 days sound sufficient?
Yeah, I
It
think so.
does. Yeah, thanks for bringing that up, Grace.
Yeah, and to build off of Christine's comment, I think if we really want to emphasize community engagement and who we're looking for to apply, to find a good community engagement partner, I think the extra 15 days will help.
Makes sense to me. I believe, I'm not sure if this is the market value analysis of the consolidated plan, but one of these was done by H3 Studio and team, but I think that might be the market value. I will, as soon as I find it, I will share with the committee who conducted the consolidated planning process last. With that, I will entertain a motion to approve the RFP for issuance.
So moved for the consolidated plan development services.
Second,
Thank you. Jackie, could you please call the roll?
Committee Member Keown,
Aye.
Committee Member Ingracia,
aye.
Committee Member Alexander,
Aye.
Committee Member Anderson,
Aye.
Committee Chair Pfeffer.
Aye. Thank you. We will proceed with the issuance of this RFP, and it was in fact H3 Studio that conducted the previous consolidated planning process, and it was the reinvestment fund that conducted the previous market value analysis. And with that, we'll now turn to the next item on our agenda, which is the market value analysis RFP. The market value analysis is again a HUD requirement that we produce a market value analysis. It involves a really deep assessment of the city's housing market. It's solely focused on residential property, but the purpose is to divide the city's qualified census tracts and neighborhoods and classify them according to the strength of their housing market. And this is critical as we seek to make investments and prioritize our investments to prioritize areas with both the highest need and also which are primed for growth, where our investments will have a significant catalytic impact. And also to help understand which areas of our city we really need to be more proactive in terms of preserving access to affordable housing. And so it's a really important document. It's required by HUD, and that's what this RFP is for. So with that, I'll entertain any questions.
I didn't realize this was a HUD requirement. This will be the third one that the city's done, correct?
That's right.
Okay, can you speak a little bit about how it's actually being used? I'm just curious I know it's a requirement, but if we're spending money and actually using the data.
We are actually using the data. We use the data, for example, in our NOFA, where there's additional points associated with serving weaker housing markets, because we want to prioritize investment in markets that have historically been disinvested from. It's also, I believe, used significantly by the planning department, and it will contribute significantly as a supporting element as the planning department proceeds with its work to develop a strategic land use plan. So it'll integrate deeply there. It could also be leveraged. I believe the Board of Aldermen has on various occasions considered tying various sorts of incentives or other policies to the market value analysis. So we do believe that it's a useful product and something that we do leverage in our decision making. It may also contribute as we work to develop prioritization indices for the demolition, stabilization, and rehabilitation of homes, of vacant homes, and for the maintenance or development or rewilding of vacant land. And so it's an important set of data that does help ensure that we are making data-informed decisions.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion at this time.
I move that we approve the RFP for the market value analysis services.
I'll second.
Thank you. Jackie, can you please call the roll?
Committee Member Keung,
Aye.
Committee Member Gracia,
Aye.
Committee Member Alexander,
Aye.
Committee Member Anderson,
Aye.
Committee Chair Pfeffer.
Aye. Subject to your motion, we will proceed with the issuance of this RFP. And something we didn't discuss on this one, we should have, 30 days is the anticipated duration, and there's no objection to that. Okay. Great. With that, next item on our agenda is CDBG DR Administrative Services RFP. For context, in May 2020, well, the story, of course, begins with the July 2022 flooding that the city of St. Louis was exposed to, one of the most dramatic rainfall events in the city's history, creating a substantial amount of property and other damage, and which triggered the federal government to award the city of St. Louis in May 23, subject to the federal notice publication in the Federal Register, a award of $25.834 million in CDBG disaster recovery funds. As the city prepares to deploy these funds to provide direct relief to households across the city, to provide to build the city's operational capacity to respond to flooding, and to provide and to improve our floodplain management, both plan and ensure that we create more permeable ground, etc. We have to follow a pretty detailed process set forth by HUD, which involves a very deep data analysis. So the way that the process works is that we start by submitting the certifications of our financial procedures, which has all been done. But the next step is to submit our action plan, telling HUD, here's how we're going to spend the money. And as part of this action plan, it has three main components. It needs an unmet needs analysis, a proposed budget and proposed programs, and citizen participation, which includes a substantial amount of consultation. The piece that's the biggest barrier in terms of timely expenditure of funds is that unmet needs analysis, because what that involves is a deep data analysis that has a few different prongs. It includes evaluating the impact of the flood, the cost, and the damage done. It then involves subtracting from that cost all the payouts made by FEMA and by private insurance in order to understand the unmet need. And then in addition, we need to do, because it's a flood, a very deep analysis to understand essentially how we want to prioritize our response in terms of where the flood had the greatest impact and the geographic kind of distribution of that impact, which involves some significant GIS work. And so, frankly, it's not a capacity, this data analysis that we have at CDA, or for that matter at SEMA, who we've been in deep conversation and partnership with as we work to deploy these funds. It's also something that we've heard from our partners across the country who have received and administered CDBG DR funds is the biggest hurdle in terms of securing HUD approval and why they really told us these are disaster recovery funds, not disaster response funds. That you shouldn't expect to spend them. The guidance that we've received is for at least 1 or 2 years after the Federal Register notice, which in this case was May 2023. In order to speed it up, though, and in order to get these funds moving as quickly as possible, that's why we are requesting CDBG DR administrative services. And it's worth noting that there are firms across the country who specialize in this, because there are actually billions of CDBG DR dollars. While ours was a small award, states like Florida or Texas or others that get hit by large hurricanes or natural disasters regularly get billions in CDBG DR dollars. And so there's a pretty clearly established process, and there are firms who know how to navigate it extremely well and can help us navigate it. Of course, as was discussed previously, a priority throughout this process is also going to be community engagement. And we would hope that whoever responds also has a community engagement partner as a part of this as well. So that's an overview of the need, and happy to answer any questions.
You may have said this, but how long do we have the funding until? When do we need to spend it by?
It's a 6-year window. Any additional questions?
I move that we move forward the request for proposal to be submitted for CDBG DR administration for CDA.
Sorry, can I ask a quick question before we finalize? How long are you keeping the RFP open for?
We were planning on 30 days, but if the committee prefers that we do 45 days to afford more opportunities to respond, I'm perfectly open to that. I do think
Sorry,
that there's an urgency here that is not quite as present with the consolidated plan, which is why I do think 30 days would also be appropriate, but I'll defer to the will of the committee.
I will second Christine's motion with understanding Christine made it for 30 days.
30 days? Jackie, can you please call the roll?
Committee Member Keung,
Aye.
Committee Member Ingracia,
Aye.
Committee Member Alexander,
Aye.
Committee Member Anderson,
Aye.
Committee Chair Pfeffer.
Aye. By your motion, you have authorized CDA to issue the Community Development Block Grant Disaster Recovery Administrative Services RFP, and we will do so. The next item on our agenda is the issuance of an RFP for Grants Management System Services. And this is really in response to, frankly, engagement with our subrecipients and other partners. Is emerged that updating our grants management system is a priority in order to be as customer friendly, in order to be most effectively track and disperse federal funds. The system that we currently use is certainly functional, but it's also quite unique, and I think we're one of only 2 cities that use it. And so it does present some challenges for our subrecipients in navigating it and learning the process. And we think that we can, we would like to adopt a system that is more user-friendly, but also more designed for data tracking and geographically tracking our investments and telling that story and translating the data into federal reporting more easily. So that's a little bit of background. I'm going to toss it to Rashonda for any additional details that you care to provide about what we're looking for in a grants management system.
Yeah, so our system is currently called eGrams, and we use it for our CDBG applicants and subrecipients. They come and apply in eGrams, and the system, though it's been wonderful and the team likes the way it's engaged, it doesn't have a full breadth of services. So we contacted our current provider to see if they were able to maybe integrate other aspects of like fiscal into the software. And there are just some limitations that um, were presented. So we are in desperate need to have a fuller system to manage our new subrecipients, considering we also have this influx of ARPA funds.
And what we'll do essentially is we'll start off by moving ARPA funds onto this new system in order to kind of pilot it, and then move the HUD funds from eGrams to the new system over time. Any questions?
I will motion to approve CDA releasing the RFP for the grants management system services.
Second.
Thank you. Jackie, can you please call the roll?
Committee Member Keown,
Aye.
Committee Member Ingracia,
Aye.
Committee Member Alexander,
Aye.
Committee Member Anderson,
Aye.
and Committee Chair Pfeffer.
Aye. By your motion, you have authorized CDA to issue this grants management system RFP, and we will do so. 30 days, sorry, we probably should have this 30 days. Great. With these 4 RFPs approved for issuance, we're now ready to move on to the last item on our agenda, setting our next meeting. And I'll suggest that we hold on setting the next meeting until we receive those responses, but that you should look for a calendar invite from Kevin on our team, or expect to hear from Kevin on our team once these RFPs closed and we have a chance to see those responses. But it'll be in about a month's time. So with that, thank you all very much for your time today. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Jackie, can you please call the roll?
All in favor?
Aye.
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 All right, we are adjourned.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.